So thank you very much for coming. I'm Stathis Anagnostou. I'm co-leading the youth-to-youth community at the World Bank Group. And I'll just kind of pass the floor to Mahmoud Mohiuddin. He's the Senior Vice President for the World Bank Group. And he will give you a short introduction of the whole idea and initiative. And obviously, many of you know Georgi Petkovsky already. Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much, and welcome to you all to the premises of the World Bank Group. I'm very pleased that friends and students from Wharton made it and managed to be with us here. And making this start with a special reference to Wharton, because the idea behind the Ideas for Action started there when I was invited by Georgi a couple of years ago to talk about the Millennium Development Goals and the Sustainable Development Goals, which were basically at the time were in the making. And we raised an issue about how can we transform all of these goals when they are finalized and endorsed by the UN system, which happened, as you know, on the 25th of September 2015. How can we change dreams, aspirational goals, and overall objectives into specific targets with adequate timeline and adequate resources? What kind of funding will be mobilizing to achieve all of these goals and targets at the domestic level and at the global level? Last year was a very successful year, not just for the Ideas for Action good performance that I'll share with you in a minute, but because it was a good year for the multilateral system and global development and finance. We had very successful summits, starting with July in Addis, where the action agenda had been approved for financing development. And for those of you participating in this competition, the Addis Ababa Action Agenda is one of the main references that we may need to use and refer to, with all of its pillars and promises on domestic finance, international finance, public and private contributions to sustainable development goals, and of course the three other elements related to debt management, technology, and the role of trade in achieving the sustainable development goals. A couple of months after July, we had, as I mentioned, the approval of the new goals on the 25th of September, 17 goals, more than 160 targets, 169 to be exact. And currently, there is a team working in the UN with counterparts and partners around the world, finalizing the critical indicators to measure and monitor the developments of these goals. So this is very much the beginning of the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. We are in the 5th week of the new phase, after ending the new phase, I would say with some success in many countries, with some failures in countries that didn't manage to achieve any of the Millennium Development Goals because of different reasons, like being in conflict or without resources, without good management, without good policies, without adequate institutions. Now, with this kind of collective efforts toward achieving the Sustainable Development Goals, we are very optimistic that the Sustainable Development Goals, despite the challenges we are facing around the world, are going to be seeing better outcome than their predecessors. On the Ideas for Action, as I said, it came out of this discussion with your colleagues at Wharton, when we started to talk about how to finance the Sustainable Development Agenda in the making. At the time, it was called Post-2015 priorities or post-2015 development goals. Now we have a framework referring to Addis. Now we have the goals. We need to implement them at the national level. I'm very pleased that the first wave of the ideas for action attracted the attention of many young contributors to solutions, not just stopping at criticizing what went wrong or hoping for the thing that went right to be better, but basically to share ideas for the future and to make some sort of constructive suggestions for the way going forward in the implementation. We had 26,000 online users for the first initiative or the first wave of the initiative. We had 260 universities and organizations around the world. Very pleased of the significant contributions of developing countries to that initiative. We had participants from 130 countries. We're forming 330 teams. The winners were given access to a variety of ways to demonstrate their knowledge and ideas, including presenting their proposals online. We had a publication which is available in front of you all for the 6 best proposals. We invited the best 3 to events in Africa and after that in Lima for the annual meetings. I think that was the first time in the history of our organization that goes for more than 70 years. We had some young participants from outside the bank sharing their ideas for the participants of the annual meetings and getting comments and getting suggestions. And some of them, I learned that they got support for implementing their ideas. That encouraged us in Lima to start with the second wave of proposals, with the deadline to be on the 29th of this month, February 2016. And again, the criteria for the selection is going to be, and this will be explained further by Georgia, is going to be about innovation, about inspiration, about the applicability of the proposals, about the replicability of the proposals with a potential scaling up. It needs to demonstrate deep knowledge of the challenges ahead of us, the objectives for the Sustainable Development Goals, and how can we mobilize adequate resources with better management of the finances in order to achieve these goals. As far as we can get deeper in the local knowledge, that would be very useful for us. We're a global organization, and with the thousands of experts we have here, I would say that we have adequate or sufficient exposure to ideas related to the global finance and global development. What we always in need for is more ideas coming from the local communities, from the particular cases that you might be seeing as a challenge, but you don't stop at the challenge, describing the problems and hurdles and obstacles facing the communities, but as I said, having an emphasis on the solutions as you will put them together. Teamwork is very much needed and required from your community or beyond. In these proposals, we had people with different nationalities from different locations proposing the ideas, and some of them were in the top of the list of the success. And then what we are offering, again, we are going to be offering access and opportunity. Again, we'll try to find the different venues with our events and the joint events with the UN system to give you this kind of a platform or an exposure to share your ideas. Your ideas are going to be listened to after the assessment to policymakers, ministers of development and finance, with leaders of the private sector and think tanks and universities, and many development practitioners and financiers, including the participants of the assessment from the World Bank Group. Again, I'm very pleased and very privileged to have this kind of attention given to this initiative. I see it as one of the most successful partnerships that we had, because the idea had got this kind of interest and positive support from those who are going to be owning the outcomes of the Sustainable Development Goals in 2030. So for all of you, thank you all for being here, and wishing you the best of luck. Thank you. And Georgie, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you. Now I have to do the easiest part, because Mahmoud covered the, let's call that the substantive part. First of all, Mahmoud, this is an opportunity to thank you on behalf of the whole initiative. As you mentioned, you basically trigger the whole thing by coming to Wharton and motivating people over there to really get engaged in this. So first I want to to welcome you on behalf of all those behind this initiative, and there are a number of people. First, starting with the Idea for Action clubs. I'll explain what that means. Marie is here from Wharton, who launched the clubs, and now they are all over the world. Then I want to welcome you on behalf of Young American Business Trust. Luis is there with his team. If you can stand up for a moment so the people know who are the Young American Business Trust people, because this is a place for interaction today, exchange of knowledge. And then, of course, the Y2Y program at the World Bank. So I guess we have several of them, Statis and the rest. So these are the young people behind the initiative. And that's one of the unique features of this program. This is not a program for young people. This is a program driven by young people. And that, I think, changed the whole dynamics in a very unique way. This is, of course, for you an opportunity to demonstrate who you are and your commitment to really change the world, but at the same time creates a number of challenges, and that's good for you to start at this age realizing that implementation is something which matters very much. We can have thousands of ideas, but implementation also brings specific challenges to that. What makes this program interesting is, I would say, from one side it's very young, 1 year. On the other side it's very mature, because the results have been achieved so far. We expect of a program which has been around for many years, which is not the case. Now let's figure out why this happened the way it happened. I think one thing very important is the fact that, thanks to, again, you, immediate connection with the global initiative, Sustainable Development Goals. Something which will drive the development agenda for the next 15 years. And you have opportunity to be part of that and take responsibility for the implementation. There are a number of conferences and speeches and everything else, and usually not realizing that in the next 15 years you will be the drivers behind this. This is kind of your priority, because that will shape your life in a more substantive way than the life of my generation. Mohideen already mentioned the fact that this is not about ideas for the sake of ideas, but it's very much about solutions. And these solutions we are looking for are scalable solutions and solutions with more substantive impact. There are a number of initiatives globally around competition in business cases, in business models, and so on. We are looking for something which goes beyond that, which complement these kind of initiatives. And what I mean by that is, and you will see from the book, and many of you are familiar with that, that these solutions we are looking for are a little bit more complex or holistic. And at the same time, these are kind of solutions that can have kind of more immediate impact on the ground. It's good to be part of a global initiative, but the real life implementation is going to happen on the ground. And that means that through the implementation of your solutions, you are also shaping the business environment or the ecosystem where this implementation will take place. And that's the connection with access to top decision makers, because you are not coming with simple things. You are coming with something more substantive to interact with decision makers, as Mahmoud mentioned, from government, civil society, development organizations, and so on. So that's opportunity to go really beyond just simple business plans. The fact that we are measuring success of this not by the numbers of events we are going to organize or the number of events which is organized by others, but what is happening between the events. How we generate tangible solutions and how these solutions are going to be implementing in practice. Now, for the very structure of this event here, you've been informed already in advance, just to remind you that the main focus of the next 4+ hours is really to further improve your ideas, to broaden them or to make them more focused, for teams to eventually expand, or those who don't have team to create teams here. So some kind of exchange of ideas and knowledge among yourself. There are a number of resource people sitting here. They will be introduced according to the agenda, but take advantage of their presence. They can give you some very interesting ideas, insights, or how to further improve your from ideas. And I hope around 4 o'clock you will have something more tangible and more or less well cooked to be submitted for the next round of competition. For those participants who are following this event online, I would like to thank them for joining us. I know that the Ideas for Action clubs in Hong Kong, Eastern Europe, Africa are already connected. They will be seeing, watching what is happening over there. That will give them ideas of how to organize similar events. And we'll have Maria from Eastern Europe talking later on to inform you what they are doing right now through their Ideas for Action clubs. And also, I would like to invite the online participants to be in touch with us during this event. We have dedicated people who will be receiving their comments and ideas, questions, and we will help them interact with the resource people. So at the end, let me also thank those who were directly engaged in organizing this particular event. Mahmoud Office, people, and they are already standing, some of you. Thank you very much. Without help will not happen. And one more time to the Wharton Ideas for Action of putting these things together. Thank you very much and good luck. Thank you. Okay, I mean, this is the end of the opening. So because we are late 30 minutes, just to make sure whether the next speaker is connected or not. Are we connected? Yes. Okay, so Mahmoud, we can sit over there if you want, because I guess that will be shown.
Yes, Georgia. Shall I start right in?
Fantastic. So please, you can start your presentation. You have the agenda. I don't want to, allocate time of introducing David because you know who David is from Firmenich. He will make a presentation. And by the way, listen carefully to David because David is one of the members of the selection committee which will decide who are the 6 best proposals. David, the floor is yours.
Georgia, thank you. Mahmoud, thank you. And to everyone at the World Bank and Wharton, thank you for involving Firmenich again this year in this program. To the young leaders in the room, good morning. And to those overseas, good afternoon and good evening. I have 10 minutes, so I'm going to talk fast, and I have a lot to say. I'm just going to use a few of my slides for whoever is turning the slides, but you can go right into it. There you go. So just for those of you that don't know what Firmenich is a Swiss-based fragrance and flavor company. We're family-owned, based in Geneva. The company is 120 years old. It operates in 64 countries. It has about 7,000 employees. I'm sitting in Princeton, New Jersey this morning. I'm the president of the U.S. company. And if you don't, I can almost guarantee to you everyone in the room and on the phone around the world is right now or this morning or today has used a Firmenich product without knowing it. We touch about 2 billion consumers a day. And what we do is we create the fragrances and flavors that go into your soap, shampoo, perfume, orange juice, coffee, and a multitude of products that are fragranced and flavor. What I'm talking to you about today is sustainability, and what you see up on the screen is the highlights from our sustainability program from the past year. And I just, my purpose, or what I understand my purpose today to be, is to help you as you generate and improve on your ideas, is to give you an idea or give you some ideas on what corporations are concentrating on in their own sustainability efforts. So if you look at the 9 boxes on your screen, I'm just going to highlight a very few of them, just so you know that the challenges companies face in their sustainability agenda. So reading across from top to bottom, the first box relates to carbon disclosure and carbon reduction in the workplace. The next box, just to say that we placed 2 new endowments at universities around the world, and I make a mental note for myself to make sure that Wharton appears on this screen next year and not just Stanford and EPFL. We joined the World Business Council for Sustainable Development Lifestyles program, and just to tell you what that is, this is a program where we're looking at what the sustainable home of the future would be. So if you look 10, 20, 30, 50 years down the road, what are our homes going to be like at various places around the world? What will our washing machines be like if they exist? Our dishwashers? How are we going to fragrance the house? And that's what this project is that the World Business Council based in Switzerland is working on. The next box lets you know that we've certified now 100% of our 28 manufacturing sites around the world for both safety and environment. The next box is the toilet board. It might not sound very interesting to you, but take note that 2.6 billion people around the world have no access to toilets or clean sanitation, and we've joined now with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to work to decrease that number to provide toilets, hygiene, and sanitation to a much larger group around the world. And there's great efforts and results that are going on already. The next 2 boxes relate to carbon and water reduction. And the final box on that page is protein. As a flavor company, we're involved in how to make sure that the world, as it will exist tomorrow, has an adequate level of protein. If you turn the page. Voila. This is just to say what we set targets back in 2010 for 2015 in full transparency. We've reported where we have met our targets, exceeded our targets, or just come close to achieving them. And most of these relate to environmental performance or natural sourcing of products. And we're going to touch on the natural sourcing in just a moment with a video. The final one on that page was impacting the lives of children around the world. And now if you turn the page, click through if you would. Click through until the whole page is showing. What this page shows is our strategy. We have a 5-prong, no, put back again. Keep going back. And back, and back. Voila. Up. 1 forward, and then we're there. Just so this whole page that's up on the screen now shows. Well, what it shows, in the middle you see Pathways to Positive. That's the name of our sustainability program. What our goal is to become a positive that company that does not have any negative impact on the world, either through environment or any other. Stop right there. It's perfect. So we're on a pathway now to having a positive impact on society and everything we do. The 5 pillars which you see in front of you, starting at the top, are ethics and excellence, so that we feel that a company cannot be sustainable until it's proven that it has has nearly perfect, if not perfect, ethics, and we place a lot of resources on our ethical program. Going down to the left, partnerships, it's partnering with organizations such as the World Bank, Wharton, and a number of other organizations and academic institutions to partner together with companies. We feel that we cannot achieve sustainable goals alone. We want to work with other excellent organizations to do such. The next is environment and resources. This is more self-explanatory. Our goal is to reduce our own environmental impact and help other organizations reduce their impact. For people and communities, in the communities we operate in and the communities that we source materials from, we want to use our skills and talents as a company to help improve all of those communities. And finally, science and societies. We have a large group of scientists and PhDs in our company. We want to use our scientific background together with our artistic skills in creating fragrances and flavors to impact the world. Now, that's the last slide I'm going to show. The next thing that I'm going to do is, if it works, is show a video. And just to introduce the video, as I said, we source materials from all over the world, fragrance and flavor materials. One material that's key to us is vanilla. Historically, vanilla came from primarily from Madagascar and still does today. In Madagascar, there are a number of climate problems, political problems, and we were looking to develop a second important source of vanilla in the world. So the company's goal was to gain a second source and to balance our risk in sourcing vanilla. At the same time, and the country that we chose to do this in is Uganda, and the video that I'm going to show in a few seconds is about our program in Uganda. At the same time, we realized we had a social responsibility. So when we took on this goal to build a source of vanilla in Uganda, we found that there was a way that Firmenich could really positively impact the population there. So together with Georgia and with Wharton, we've written a case study which was used at Wharton last year and is being used again this year. And this film relates to the case study. So if we can show the film now. You're managing the film from Washington, right? It's outside of his PowerPoint presentation. It's the YouTube connection.
Ugandan vanilla farmers face poverty and disease on an unimaginable scale. Most adults will not live past 45. Income for a third of the population is less than $1 a day. In some villages, 4 out of 10 people have HIV or AIDS. And malaria kills a fifth of children under 5. Since 2007, Firmenich has been working with UVAN, Uganda's biggest vanilla processor, to help farmers improve the quality and value of their vanilla, make sure that they're paid better prices, and to set up other projects to help tackle poverty and disease. Firmenich is working with UVAN to train farmers to grow better beans and to extend their farm activities to earn more money.
People, first of all, learn how to grow vanilla. It's very, very important for them because that's one of the income-generating activity which they have. Other activities like poultry keeping and things like that, it all adds up to the extra income which they need very badly.
Working with CARE International, Firmenich are helping farmers set up Village Savings and Loans Associations, or VSLAs, so they can save money and take out small loans.
VSLA in full is Village Savings and Loan Associations. There are no immediate financial services available in this community. So what VSLA has done is the women now are empowered to mobilize their own funds, small amounts of money, but eventually they create a big fund which they access and are able to invest in those income-generating activities.
Some have bought land, some have bought animals, some are beginning to put up structures so that they can get the benefit of getting poultry in future.
Firmenich have also helped the project team give the farmers training on the prevention and control of AIDS and malaria.
For HIV, we create awareness about the disease. for people to know that the disease is very dangerous. We train them how to avoid it. And for malaria, we give out mosquito nets. We train them how to control the disease. When you're sick, you cannot produce. And if you cannot produce, you can't be rich. So when you train them how to avoid these diseases, they can save money.
Firmenich are also working with UVAN to improve their production processes and the hygiene, quality and flavour of their beans.
The process starts with receiving the beans, checking them, weighing them, sort them, of course, very well to make sure that there are no foreign material. Then we start doing the washing in cold water, then in hot water. We put them on conveyor. At the same time, we are doing the selection as well. Then we do the cutting. Our business here is in cut beans. And then we put them in pans, and then we start putting them in sweating tanks. With the guaranteed market, then they can continue growing it. Once they know that UVAN is connected with an international reputable company, they are encouraged because they know that we are here today, tomorrow, and the day after.
It has helped them live a better life, like they can afford to buy food for themselves, pay for the shelter, and they also seek medical care from the money that they get paid, and also educate their children.
Their lives have improved. Their families are happy. Their husbands are supportive because they encourage them to come and meet because they know there's something great to benefit out of it.
My family is really very happy with the project. Whenever my children come back, you find them carrying the poultry. They enjoy it very much. They have realized that it is supporting them to keep at school. It is supporting their health. The future, to me, looks very bright.
I'm happy that Firmenich thought about funding this project. It's a wonderful project.
David, thanks a lot.
Thank you. I'm sorry I went over by a minute. So Georgia, I'll stay on the line, but I'll mute myself and watch the next speakers then.
Okay, very good. And then at the end of the next two short presentations, if you're still around, we can open the floor for questions.
Q&A.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Perfect.
Yes.
Okay,
thanks
so much. Thank you.
Okay, now we will just make a small change in the agenda. Amir, are you online? We are trying to connect with New York with the Global Partnership Initiative.
I am online.
Fantastic. As we agreed, we will give them your PowerPoint presentation later on. And if you can make your presentation without PowerPoint presentation, okay?
Certainly.
Okay.
Certainly.
Please, I mean, we can all see you and hear you. So the floor is yours. They have your bio, so we are not introducing the speakers, just to have more time for interaction.
First of all, I want to thank you and our friends at the World Bank, especially Mahmoud Mohyeldin, for doing this. I think this is very important, very timely. It's about time that we do exactly the way you mentioned. It's not a platform for young people, it's led by young people. We all know that global challenges cannot be addressed by one country, one government, one organization. It really needs the engagement of all the actors. And in today's climate, when the economies are struggling, traditional ODA, which is Overseas Development Assistance, or traditional aid from governments, is minuscule. We need to be thinking of investments by the private sector, and when funds are scarce, even foreign direct investment cannot take place easily. So what we need to now think is about innovation and entrepreneurship. Hence, the Global Ideas Lab is a great platform. The UN has not done enough in engaging young people. We have a wonderful youth envoy who does great work in mobilizing young people. But what Wharton and World Bank are now doing is to say, can you come up with solutions to traditional problems? Take these problems, turn it over their head, and say, yes, we can do it. We need to find solutions for issues such as poverty and hunger. And it's not about simply saying, can we mobilize citizens around the world to give loans and charities, etc., but basically find sustainable solutions. In September of last year, as everybody knows, the UN, 193 member states of the UN adopted these Sustainable Development Goals. There are 17 goals, 169 targets. And if you drill down deeper, look at the targets, you will find that each of these relate to our everyday life. It's about education, it's about health, it's about climate, it's about water, sanitation, and I really appreciated what David Shipman mentioned early on as well, that the bottom line is companies need to do things. They have to change their DNA to integrate some of these goals as part of their core business models. We don't want the traditional corporate social responsibility agenda, but we want to adopt a culture of personal social responsibility. In other words, where everybody feels that they have a right and an opportunity to do things. Not so much an obligation, but an opportunity. And when you look back, the Millennium Development Goals were successful because everybody came together. And therefore, the concept of partnerships is key. And partnerships have to be what I would call multi-stakeholder partnerships, where governments, private sector, civil society, and international organizations come together and say, how can we find solutions? Can we have new ideas for the old problems? We have a planet which we need to preserve, and people like Georgia and I and others have to say, we need to ensure that we leave the planet in a better way than we found it. Now, it's easily said than done. But if you look at what's happening in Silicon Valley, Silicon Alley, places like India, China, and others, it's the young people who are driving innovation. Young people are saying, I can deliver information on health through new apps. I know how you can find better markets for your produce from the farmers to the stores in the Western world. I can help you deliver education for free online. So if we can look at this, and I love what Mahmood said, that look, we need to be investing in these young people. And maybe we need to find ways of encouraging this innovation so that people come through with these ideas and now take them to market, if you like. And how can you take them to market? You can have little bits of incubation opportunities created. Maybe we could think of an innovation fund where the private equity community, the venture capitalists around the world say that I see value, I see the benefits to society, but I also see an increase in the bottom line. And in the old days, we would look at social problems saying that belonged, was the domain of governments. That's no longer so. The UN's report, and you will see from the PowerPoint, which will be distributed later on, what we need to do is, there were 5 pillars which were put forward in the synthesis report submitted by the Secretary General. And it focuses on people, prosperity, peace, partnerships, and the planet. What I called creating a culture of peace and prosperity for people on the planet through partnerships. Anything that you do, anything, if you add the word partnerships, it'll work for you much better. It'll have a multiplier effect. So, in the traditional way, how my colleagues at the UN and maybe less so at the World Bank, the way they communicate is through meetings. They get together member states to talk about issues and come up with solutions, which are called resolutions, and those resolutions have to be implemented. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, which was adopted in September, will now be implemented by all governments, starting with their national development plans. They will need to update those plans and then integrate the SDGs into their normal activities. We hope that this will, this process has already started, and we hope this will apply to all countries, and they will be able to do that rapidly. And that's where the World Bank is helping in a huge way to strengthen government capacity. Today's discussion of engaging you young people is critical. It means that you will be able to participate in this process. You will be able to tell your own governments, your own communities, in places where you live, to say, I don't just need to look at where I am, but where is somebody else? What is somebody else doing in Burundi, or in Vietnam, or in India, or China, or Nigeria, or Brazil, etc.? Social media connects you instantaneously with people around the world. And one of the other elements we are now looking at the Global Partnerships Forum is to create an online portal for partnerships where we can match supply and demand. When I say supply, there are a number of people who have great project ideas, great initiatives, innovation, entrepreneurship taking place. Or often they cannot take it to market. So we want to bring in social entrepreneurs, innovators, the PE community, venture capitalists, to say, please consider investing in these kinds of projects that advance the global goals of the United Nations, but also do well in that process. So the principle of doing well and doing good has to be the new mantra, not simply saying, okay, I'm doing good by giving some charity, but at the end of the day, you are leaving that person still demanding more. We want to create sustainable societies. An example, what we're trying to do is to engage, for example, the faith-based communities. You know that they are probably one of the biggest donors. And our goal is to get them to move from that traditional charity to what we call smart philanthropy, sustainable philanthropy. There are many, many examples of people doing good, and I know you in the audience have many good ideas that you'd like to learn from it. What I would like to suggest is that we send you the partnership portal concept. We send you a little bit of the presentation, and hope we can continue the dialogue online. I know there's a platform which has been created. We're very grateful to Wharton and the World Bank.
Yes.
And we hope that we continue to have opportunity.
Yes, and we will make not available only to Wharton and the World Bank, but all the partners globally. Thank you very much. This was very inspiring and also very concrete. And we will share all the material with you. Thanks again. I know that you have the next meeting already. You are late for that one, but we wish you all the best. Okay?
Thanks very much, indeed. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Now we have our colleagues from the IFC. This is a World Bank group. Don't forget that. Rohil will talk about some of his insights. He's very familiar with this initiative, by the way. And yeah, the floor is yours. Or take my mic because it works.
That works, yes. Always good to work with a mic that already works. Thank you, Georgia. Just wanted to let you know, I had a presentation, but I think we're running behind time, so let's just can that one for the moment. What I wanted to do was to, one, tell you how I felt when I came to this place. And I'm, from sort of bottom of my heart, very excited to see the people who are here, and as Georgia mentioned, people around the world which are linked in. Mahmoud was very clear about, we in this World Bank group have access to thousands of experts. So, and we've spent, whole careers working on these development issues. MDGs are over, but the SDGs coming in, and working in the trenches where I do, these are challenging. There is no question about it that it's going to take a lot of effort and a lot of working together, as Amir said, partnerships to be able to get some hope of success in meeting these SDGs. From our perspective, from my perspective, and I'll tell you a little bit about IFC so you know where we are, and I think the benefit of most of this, which is why I'm going to keep my comments very short, is interactions between us in the World Bank Group and you guys. While we have a lot of experience and we have a lot of expertise and a lot of access to knowledge and access to partners around the world, what we don't have, which you bring to the table in this Ideas for Action workshop, and thanks Wharton for it, is your perspective to it. I wish I was at your age, but I'm not. So the passion and the viewpoint that you will bring through your ideas in this one is something that we can use. So this is something that you bring to us in getting these SDGs moving. What we can bring to you is our own knowledge and seeing what works and what doesn't work. So I think it's very good that we go through these partnerships. Please use all the resources that are available to you here and later on to develop these things. Now a few words about where I come from in the World Bank Group, so you have some idea of what it is that I can help with, or IFC part of the World Bank Group with. The public sector part of the group, which is normally referred to as the World Bank, works with the governments and the government's agencies and provide a lot of advice and lending and everything else. IFC, where I come from, World Bank by its charter cannot work directly with the private sector. They have to work through the government. By charter, it's the other way around for IFC. We work directly with the private sector. So that's the part of the group that I work for. To give some idea of the size, last year we did about $17 billion worth of new lending. Sorry, I'm going to go back to the word lending. World Bank does lending, that is its primary, in addition to advice, the primary investment businesses through lending, while IFC invests, which means that we would lend, but we will also take equity. We will do short-term finance. We will do advice. We will do swaps, mezzanine finance. So all kind of instruments that are available out in the financial market, as we mentioned in terms of venture capital and everything. So we work with venture capitals. So this is the part of the business we do, and as part of our work, we see proposals and pitches coming from lots of places. They are probably not as intelligent and committed as you guys are and don't have the perspective that you do, but we do see all of it. So I have something to provide in terms of why a particular proposal is financeable and why another one requires more work before it becomes financeable. So that's the part that I can do. We have, just like the bank, offices around 100 countries. We employ about 4,000 people, and we work in virtually every sector of the world. So we are in infrastructure, we are in financial services, we are in education, we are in health, we are in agribusiness, and all of those things. So not me, but there are colleagues who I work with who have expertise on those kinds of sectors. So essentially what I wanted to do was to really let you know that, one, from our perspective, from my perspective, why is it more important or very important to engage with you? Because I get something out of it and IFC gets something out of it. How it is that you can use us to develop, hone, test your ideas. And then essentially I want to leave the rest of my time for interactions when we go to those part of the things. With that, I'm going to stop, Georgia, if that's okay.
Thanks a lot. Now you know whom you have to go after and get insight from the private sector arm of the World Bank Group. Now, to get even more practical, we partner with Wharton DC Club, and we invited 3 alumni from Wharton to speak for 5 minutes each about what they are doing. They have already practical experience, of course, in what they are doing, and then we will proceed further. So let me start with Sarah. Sarah, please come here. And then we'll go to Alex and then to Alan, okay? You have the mic?
Thank you. Hi, everyone. So I want to start by telling everyone a little bit about myself so that you can understand from what perspective I will be speaking from. So I'm a Wharton graduate. I'm currently serving as the chair of the International Forum for the Wharton Club of DC. I also worked for the World Bank Group for 4 years before starting my own company. So I'm an entrepreneur. I have a consultancy which expands companies through emerging markets, deals, ventures, and initiatives. So I work with entrepreneurs on a daily basis in looking at the really exciting opportunities that emerging markets have to offer. So I feel like I relate with all of you on many different levels, and I'm very excited to be here, so thank you for having me. So when I was in Wharton over 10 years ago at this point, some people like me, a little bit eclectic people like me, were really excited about emerging markets and the opportunity to make an impact, a developmental impact, and sort of save the world. But most of my classmates were actually interested in something very different. And they were interested in going to Wall Street or going into more traditional careers like consulting and generating a lot of green. So historically, to have an interest in developmental impact and in the emerging markets seemed diametrically opposed to the objective of being financially successful. But looking back now with the luxury of hindsight, I was a class of 2006. The legends of our class were not the investment bankers. I can't think of a single investment banker who became a legend. I'm sure there's one, I just haven't heard of them. The people who were legends were people like Jesse Pujji and Chris Amos. They started this company called Ampush. It's digital marketing. And their company's valued in the billions. Like, I think about them, I'm like, wow, where did I go wrong? But I still have time, so. And then more interestingly for the group here today is Kunal Bal. Kunal Bal is the co-founder of Snapdeal. Snapdeal is India's version of Alibaba or Amazon, and they are valued in, again, the billions. So we are standing at the beginning of a really exciting new era for people like me who love emerging markets development, which is that you can make a positive impact on emerging markets development, have lucrative careers, and have a lot of fun and adventure along the way. You can really have it all from the perspective of emerging markets geeks. So I hope all of you are emerging markets geeks just like me. This new era is created by the confluence of 2 major factors. The first factor of these is that never before have emerging markets been so commercially relevant. According to statistics from the United Nations, in 1990, only 25% of international trade was with emerging markets. Now that stands at about half, and that number continues to increase. So the emerging markets have dramatically changed in the minds of business leaders from being a place where you outsource cheap labor and components, and maybe you have some charitable endeavors if you have a good heart, to places where you have to be involved to be commercially relevant and viable in today's world. So The second of these factors is that innovation on a global scale has become a lot more accessible. You don't have to start with deep pockets. You don't have to start with really anything more than a vision and a drive for change. And I'm glad that all of you are here, and that shows that you have that vision and that drive for change, and all of you can have the access to the resources you need to create that innovation. So these two factors combine to make innovation for the emerging markets the most exciting opportunity of today, and the most underdeveloped opportunity in that field is that of innovative financial mechanisms. Entrepreneurs still struggle, even with all the resources provided, to get the financing that they need to really make the difference that they want to make and make the profits that they want to make at the same time. So the Ideas for Action program is really exciting because you have the #1 emerging markets finance institution in the world, and you have the #1 financial education institution in the world, combining their resources and offering them to you and saying, you know, take advantage of this. And that is really something that is incredibly valuable, and I congratulate all of you for seeing that opportunity and coming here today to take advantage of it. So finally, if today inspires you to, and the work you do with this program inspires you to follow a career in innovation, and any of your friends ask you, well, why not do something more traditional like banking or accounting or consulting? I want you to look them in the eye and say, you know what? I want to make an impact in this world, and I want to make more money than Wall Street has to offer me. So entrepreneurship is obviously riskier. It's not a guarantee, but the first lesson you learn in Finance 101 is what? Is higher risk, higher? Awesome. Thank you so much, and I look forward to learning more about you.
Thank you very much. On that note, the first thing I tell my students at Wharton is, yes, think about profit, but also think of not ending at a jail. Because many successful characters from Wall Street and somewhere else end up in jail. So have a little bit more holistic view of the world and meaning of life. Okay, Alex, you're the next one, please.
Hi, everybody. So first off, thanks to the Wharton School and to the World Bank for having me here, taking a look at the speakers that are you guys have been listening to. I feel very honored to be here. I just graduated Wharton in 2012, currently working at Microvest. You guys have my bio, so I won't go too much into that. What I wanted to do today was tell you a quick story about microfinance, and hopefully one that you haven't heard before. Given that this is a show about, or this is a event about innovative finance, I'm guessing that almost everybody here knows at least a little bit about microfinance. You've probably all heard of Muhammad Yunus, for example. So just to get a frame of reference, by a show of hands, how many people in the room know at least something about the Grameen Bank and the group lending model? All right, almost everybody. I see some hands that aren't here, so just to test, how many of you are awake right now? Almost everybody, good. So now, how many of you know about the individual model in microfinance? Know something about that? A couple hands, good, but almost nobody else. So I see few hands there, here and there. Now, those 3 or 4 of you that know about that, how many of you know who Gabriel Gallo or Klaus Zeidinger are? 0. So that is a real tragedy because they are 2 very important people and have very inspirational stories in the realm of microfinance. And I think what they developed is actually more interesting. It's a lot cooler, in my view, than what the Grameen model is. So before I dive too deep into the story, I just want to back up a little bit and talk about the role of microfinance in international development generally. As most of you know, at some point in time, microfinance was seen as the golden child in international development. And in some circles, it was viewed as the solution to poverty. Now, times have changed, there are new fads, and microfinance is no longer the golden child. And some people even think that it has failed in its objectives. But I don't want to spend too much time on that topic in particular, except to say this. I personally firmly believe that the microfinance industry has had a large and positive impact on international development, and I'd be happy to go into why I think that at some other time. So back to Gabriel Gallo and Klaus Zeidinger. So the year is 1978. Gabriel Gallo is a business school student, very much like many of you here, in northern Peru. He had a friend who was studying in Argentina, came back to visit him, and the friend told him about a municipal bank in Argentina that helped finance his education. Gabriel Gallo was so inspired by this, and there were no municipal banks in Peru at the time, that he decided to write his thesis on the subject. It morphed into a 600-page proposal to start the first municipal bank in Peru, in his town of Buda. So he pitched the idea to local and national officials and was eventually able to convince a lot of key players, including the finance minister of Peru. And as a result of his efforts, a law was passed in 1980 excuse me, that it established the framework for Peru's municipal banks. And a year later, in 1981, his vision came to be a reality, the first municipal bank in Peru. Gabriel was 24 years old at the time. Gabriel wanted to incorporate best practices into his new bank, so he looked all over the world and ended up in Germany. The German government agreed to provide technical assistance, and that technical assistance was going to be provided by a consultant. That consultant was named Klaus Zeidinger. Klaus was an economist by training, and he ran a consultancy called IPC. Now, Klaus has a reputation for having a very strong personality and maybe one that's not necessarily endearing to everybody he meets, but there's no question that he was a visionary and had a deep impact on innovative finance and microfinance across the world. So Klaus worked with Gabriel in the municipal banking system in Peru, and they introduced a new model, the individual lending model, which was different from the group lending model. The method involves essentially asking a bunch of questions. The credit officer will ask the client a bunch of questions, and through the questioning, the interview, will come up with a pro forma set of financial statements. So to build the income statement, they'll ask things like, what is the product that you sell most? How much does that product cost? How many of those do you sell? Through a series of these questions, you get a pretty clear picture of what the business is, and they actually build out the statements. This was new, this was revolutionary, and it allowed micro lenders to base their lending on the individual businesses. So I've seen this process done on the ground, and it's really a marvel to behold. And rather than rely on the joint and several liability and the peer pressure of group lending, you actually focus on the individual business. And for most borrowers, this is vastly superior to the group lending model. And to understand why, I mean, just think about it. Would you rather take the people who are sitting at your table and say, we're all going to have to meet every week to get a loan, and we're all going to have to be liable for each other's loans? Or would you rather have someone who makes something tailor-made for your particular business? So this model that the IPC and the Peruvian municipal banks created took off like wildfire, so much so that the group model barely even exists in Latin America anymore, with the notable exception of Mexico. But otherwise, it's really all about individual lending. And Peru now has the most developed, one of the most developed microfinance markets in the world. And Klaus Zeidinger went on to found ProCredit, which is a bank that has operations in, I think, 17 countries or so and $6 billion in assets. So microfinance has a rich history. These are just two stories. But you could probably guess why I wanted to tell you these particular stories. It's a story about a student who had a passion, who had a vision, who came together with some experts, some economists, some academics, very much like this forum, and together they worked on executing the vision and had a profound impact on the microfinance industry, the financial sector in general, and on international development. And millions of lives all over the world have been changed as a result. I think that's ultimately what this event is about.
Absolutely.
So
Yes.
I wish you the best of luck in executing all of your visions.
Okay, Alex, thanks a lot. I think this was very useful for a little bit more general stories to come to something very concrete, specific. You are the one between now and the lunch, so I'll be aware of that. We have a lot of hungry people looking at you. So the floor is yours. No pressure. Just 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. Greetings to all of you. Great to see so many of you here. A lot of energy in the room. I know some of that energy is going to be harnessed to go and get your food for lunch. So I want to give you a few thoughts about this. We are very excited to be participating as the local arm of the Wharton Alumni Network, an arm that extends worldwide. At our club, one of our key ideas has been to turn ideas into action basically since we started, not just theory. And that goes back, actually, has its roots at the university, founded by one of the most innovative, creative people of all time, Benjamin Franklin, who has done many things, statues down at 12th and Penn, postmaster, philosopher, printer, publisher, amazingly creative person. And I highly recommend the book by Walter Isaacson, the head of the Aspen Institute, his biography of Ben Franklin. And at the university, this has been carried into 12 different schools on one contiguous campus. One of those schools is Wharton, and innovation is one of the key themes at Wharton and at Penn. Penn has a center for innovation now with all of the different schools participating. Let me give you something that you can take away, will cost you nothing and give you great access to knowledge. SiriusXM, which you can get in a car if you have one or on your computer. SiriusXM 111 has channel business radio powered by the Wharton School. And you will hear about innovation, social entrepreneurship, dollars and change, women in the workplace, work-life balance, all sorts of issues, very low cost. Something that's absolutely free is the knowledge at Wharton. If you go to knowledge.wharton, WHARTON.UPenn, UPENN.edu, bi-weekly newsletter, totally free, fabulous ideas, and some of the benefit of Wharton without having to apply for admission, which some of us are very happy we don't have to do. So how have we carried that forward here locally and regionally? We have had a number of conferences over the years. The biggest one we have now is a 2-day conference, been the last 2 Aprils and this April, our annual Wharton DC Innovation Summit. You can learn more at whartondc.com, WHARTONDC.com, or whartondcinnovation.com. And what we try to do is harness the power to turn. One of the themes at Penn and Wharton is not just ideas for action, but knowledge for action, and trying to help people get better results, to turn those out, test those ideas, see, is there a marketplace? Is it feasible? What can you do? How can you do it? Get better results and have a real impact. The idea for this started a few years ago when our economy was suffering. We thought, what can we do that might help motivate people of all ages, from the youngest up to the oldest? Doesn't matter. Anybody, any age from anywhere in the world can have an idea that changes the world for the better. And so we have combined sessions on life sciences, data analytics, smarter government, mobility, urban mobility and transportation, urban energy, funding, whole variety of things, and you'll see those on the website. And we are very pleased to be working today with the whole team here and having an ongoing relationship, and look forward. And just one quick story about an idea that's had amazing impact, came out of nowhere. A doctor from Nigeria was studying the body, an autopsy of a dead football player, as it turned out. And he discovered what is now called CTE, chronic traumatic encephalopathy. Faced tremendous opposition from the NFL, from the owners, from the other doctors, became the basis for phenomenal discoveries that are helping to save lives and lengthen lives, and the basis of the movie Concussion. And Dr. Bennett Omalu from Nigeria, who's having a dramatic effect. We look to empower everybody who comes to our conference, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you before your appetites overcome, your appetites for food overcome your desire for knowledge. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Let me thank the Wharton team, but as you know, we don't want to make this all about Wharton. So these are steps. I hope next year when we meet together here that we can have people coming from your universities in DC. But now the challenge is for you. I hate bureaucracy, okay? And transaction cost of handling big bureaucracy is endless. Solution, you go to Marie. She created the Wharton Club. She has more power from inside to wake up some forces inside the school. So think in terms of what you can do in the process of changing some attitude in your own school. Think in terms of whether creating a club in the school, Ideas for Action Club, can help you reach to the alumni from your school. So next time we'll come together here, we'll have representation from many, many other schools. Now, you know that there is no free lunch, okay? And this is proven here as well. So now you can go, take your lunch and come here because this is a working lunch, opportunity for you to start thinking further on your proposals. Now you know who are the resource people present in the room. Feel free to contact them. They might come to your table, but now demonstrate that you are not only good in ideas, but also in entrepreneurship in terms of accessing the right people present in this room. Have a good lunch, and the first come, first serve. Thank you. And also bye to our online followers, participants. Send your comments and ideas, and we will react and respond to them. Thank you.